Alright people, how we doing? I'm doing alright. It's Tuesday. Obviously I'd made a video yesterday but I can't upload just now because I'm on a 7-day strike for a minor infraction, uploading something that flagged up, whatever. I'm new to all this, so figure as it goes, know what I mean? I'm not out to like cause issues for myself or anybody else, but obviously you know what some of these platforms can be like, with their algorithms and some people like maybe reporting stuff. I don't know, I'm not saying it was I don't think it was reported, I think it was just flagged up. It was a shorts video, that was a kind of piss take, Steve Inman commentary on it and all that. I thought they were funny, but obviously YouTube don't, so that's what it is, innit? Shout out to all the subs and the people engaging in a positive manner. I've never seen, I don't think I've seen so much positivity or can remember seeing so much positivity. So it's appreciated and thanks. Shout out to Murray for Blackhill. Good boy, mad as a brush. Actually met him in Shotts prison in 2008. I went back there the second time in 2008 to 2009 when I went to Addiewell prison, and even though I'd seen Murray in Shotts, in different bits of Shotts prison back then, I didn't really know him, but I got to know him through going to Addiewell obviously, and then he's got his own YouTube, the Murray fella it's called, if you're into getting a laugh, man. He's mad, but he's a good heart, know what I mean? He's a good boy, so his content's a bit different from mine, but obviously I know him in that, so um, he's a laugh, but so just like to say thanks for the positive messages, Murray, and if you're watching this, mate, so cheers, buddy. So I'd made a video yesterday, after the football, right, and obviously I'm trying to kind of, usually what I've noticed is a lot of the cases I've been speaking about is cases that either where I knew the offender or had a familiarity with the case or whatever. Now, people, as I said in the video I made yesterday, were asking me about Luke Mitchell, the case and all this, and I'm not going to lie, right, at first, I'm not going to lie, I never really had any interest in that case. It seemed very complex to me, right? But obviously the amount of people who are asking about it, commenting about it, and all this kind of stuff, I ended up spend almost all day yesterday watching documentaries. What some of them I've already seen a couple of times, and also researching it online. Now, when I say researching online, I mean looking at, no, want to go beyond newspaper shite, you know what I mean? Stuff that's where we can read between the lines and actually dissect this case, whether it be a point to guilt or innocence. Now, somebody had actually commented, this was a while back, this was the first comment on my channel about Luke Mitchell. They said, since did I shown as your dinner, why do you know talk about the Luke Mitchell case? That boy's lost his life. Now, I would like to point out to you and to anybody else that Luke Mitchell didn't lose his life, he lost his freedom. Jodie Jones lost her life in a very brutal fashion. That's an important distinction to make. A young 14-year-old lassie is no more. So Luke Mitchell, if he is innocent, will have a shot at a life, he's got a chance at a life again. That wee lassie, doesn't he? So I would just bear that in mind. Do you know, and I understand some people, your brain doesn't say, your mouth doesn't say what your brain's thinking. I do it all the time. Like sometimes what comes out my mouth isn't what my brain's telling me to fucking say. Do you know, I'm quite bad at that sometimes. So I didn't take offence at it or anything like that. But it is just important to note that he might get justice one day if he's innocent. Jodie Jones might never get it. So just wanted to kind of put that out there before obviously I eventually make a video on it, and I will probably make a video on it because it's a quite a high profile and controversial case that that's a lot of people seem to be interested in. And to be fair, the documentaries I watched yesterday, I'd actually seen them before and I'd actually watched them in prison. So and as I says, I never knew Luke Mitchell in prison. My paths never crossed with him. He's a bit younger than me. So on the surface it does seem a bit of a weird one, like other cases I've spoke about that could be possible miscarriages of justice. So I'll get on that, and by the time you're watching this, man, it'll no be Tuesday anymore. It's probably gonna be fucking Christmas or something. So watch this space in it. So I thought about talking about a case, right? It's not even local, it's not even Scottish, it's not even British. This case happened in America recently, and it was actually in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, Anchorage isn't the capital city of Alaska, but I think it's the biggest city. Juneau's the capital, but doesn't fucking matter, know what I mean? I'm just a geography buff. And the guy's name is Jason Vukovic, right? And it was referred to in the kind of media as the Alaskan Avenger. Now, the reason that he was labelled that was because his crimes, well, some people might not look at this as a crime. He broke into the houses of convicted paedophiles, right? After looking them up on the sex offenders registry, because they publish it in America, because they've all these laws, right? I don't know if it's state by state or it's federal or what, but obviously federal trumps state, doesn't it? So fuck knows, but I think these were state cases. And he was writing down addresses of paedophiles, where they stayed, what they were done with, and he was targeting sex offenders who had targeted children. He was breaking into their houses in the wee hours of the morning, assaulting them, threatening them, taking stuff at their house. And the first two, so there was 3 cases it was charged with, or convicted of, should I say. The first two, so the first one, I don't think he actually harmed the person physically. The second one, I think he slapped him. And the third one, I think, what I'm led to believe is he bludgeoned him with a hammer. Now, on the surface this sounds like, oh, well done mate, and all this, and like he's just went out and done this off his own back, but the more I read about the case, it seemed that the guy had went through some bad trauma as a kid, right? He was living with his mum, so him and his young brother were living with his mum, right, in Alaska. And his mum met some guy who moved in, adopted her kids, and he started sexually abusing Jason and his brother, right? The guy used to beat him, like kick the shit out of him and his brother, batter him with weapons and all that. And I can kind of identify with that part. But it wasn't, for me, it didn't go on that long. For me, it only been on maybe a year, right? But a year's bad enough when you're only fucking 11 or 12, you know what I mean? And the guy was charged, the stepfather was charged eventually with some sort of child sex abuse, right? And he got sentenced to 3 years suspended. I just don't get how there's such small sentences for these crimes. To me, sexual offences are almost on a par with murder, because you might not be murdering the victim, but to me you're murdering their soul, you're murdering their mental health, you're murdering their psyche. Like, they have to live with the fact that they've had unwanted, forced upon them, because something that's meant to be an act of love, you've turned it into something totally different in their mind, which is quite fucking twisted. And I can see why a lot of people are of the mind that who really gives a fuck if they get bludgeoned with hammers or robbed or they get karma. Good enough for them, innit? Because you're supposed to protect kids and all this kind of shit. And it's not even just kids, obviously, like it happens to adults as well, right? So in any way, shape or form you want to look at it, it's a whole lot of fucking darkness. So the guy got a 3-year suspended sentence, moved back into the family home, and social work never checked up on them. Another fucking theme that I see quite, I'm not going to say it happens all the time with social work, right, but it happens more than it should. And I'm not going to lie, like, when I was a kid, like maybe teenager, like I remember being a young offender after being in for abducting 2 social workers, right? And see if I seen it in the newspaper where social work had missed signs. I used to just get really bad thoughts in my head about them. And I remember one case where I was in Pullman Digger, right, the segregation unit in Pullman Young Offenders, the institution. This was 1999, and there was a boy for Easterhouse, I think it was, right, somewhere up that way, and him and his mom, his dad, I think it was his mom and his dad, definitely his dad, right, and his wee sister were all staying together. And I'm sure, I wish I could remember this boy's name. This was a high profile case at the time of child abuse, child neglect, right? Found a wee lassie in a back room with a stookie on that had, so say you get, know how you get a cast on your leg, we call it a stookie in Glasgow, right? Don't know, maybe other places call it something different. She had a cast on her fucking leg, right? Say she broke a leg and you put a cast on for 3 months and that's it, boom, your legs. She had it on for like a fucking year or something. Place was crawling with lice, feces. There was a pet monkey in the fucking house, and I think they said the monkey was better looked after than the kid. The dad got 8 years in prison for this, right? For neglect, right? And I remember there was a influential inmate who was in the seg at the time, and he had scored at a visit. Scored at a visit means he had got a parcel of drugs, right? Um, but the drugs he got were like drugs that I had never taken and wouldn't take. Um, but I could have still took it off him and used it as currency for something else, but I just didn't want to touch it, no. And the guy was going round everybody at the windies at like fucking when the screws had all went away, and he was like, wee Joe, do you want this? No, aye, cheers mate, cheers mate. They were always respectful on about this guy. And he asked everybody and he got to me, right, and I said no thanks, right, but like definitely no in a cheeky way. And this boy whose dad was in for what I just explained bounced up to his cell one day and he's shouting, I'll be fucking right, you fucking dafty, no taking that, blah blah blah. Right? And I swear to God, man, I've just went, and I went up to the window, I was like, what, ya fucking scumbag, you're fucking up here trying to fucking call my character into question, ya fucking scumbag, your fucking dad's in for XYZ, blah blah blah. Oh, he shut his window again, but that just stood, that case, I remember that. I can't remind the guys' names or nothing, but in that case, but when we're talking about child abuse, child neglect, just made me think it, you know, like growing up like that's no anything like I've ever experienced. Do you know? But back to the Alaskan Avenger. So the the judges sentenced his stepdad to 3 years probation when he's fucking suspended, whatever. When the 3 years is up, he's moved back in the house. Now imagine allowing that. Like somebody abused my kid and it was my partner. Or anybody, you know. I really don't know if I could contain myself, not gonna lie. I really don't, because I just never knew I was capable of so much love until I had my son, you know. I actually thought I was dead inside, not gonna lie. I really believed that, I really did. But when I look at this guy's case, like, he ended up just becoming a transient, right? Just floating from state to state, getting involved in petty crime, drug use, just fucking what a life, man. And you can kind of see why some people would run away from home at a young age to get away from that. Now maybe that should be kind of a sign. Obviously there's experts, but the thing is with a lot of experts is I'll use one of their own phrases, lived experience. No, a lot of them have it. And I think that people with lived experience, especially if they've done some sort of research into this shit, they should be, I think they've got a bit more to offer in my book, you know. And I'm not just meaning like me, or I'm meaning like it's an untapped resource in this country and it should be used in any nation that's serious about tackling prison population, reoffending and helping victims of crime. 100%. Because a lot of them are just left to come out and fend for themselves, which is, I'm just lucky I've fucking got my kid and I'm just keeping a lid on shit and making sure I do, taking care of my responsibilities, all this kind of stuff, you know. But what about the person that doesn't have all that? What have they fucking got to do, you know? But this guy's ended up, I think he's did a few sentences in North America, like, so he's from Alaska, he's went down to the lower 48 and he's floating about all the Pacific Northwest, so like Washington, Idaho, fucking all that, Oregon and all that. Just, and I think he was well known to police wherever, oh, excuse me, sorry. I think he's well known to police in the places he was living, so he was obviously getting up to stuff, right? Um, but you can't blame the guy for no addressing his trauma, because I have read in that especially that obviously I've read that people that are victims of sexual abuse, they don't want to talk about it, they feel ashamed and all that, but it must be worse for guys, you know. I'm not trying to minimise what women have went through at all, but with guys it must be different. Like, you know, like they're thinking, like they're questioning their sexuality and all that. If some stepdad, teacher, fucking somebody into football coach, whatever, is got their hooks in them and swearing them to secrecy, don't tell MD, and or I'll hurt you, whatever it is that's going on. It's just a fucking absolute nightmarish scenario, man. Um, so you can't really blame the guy for no way to speak about it, you know. Um, Maybe he felt too ashamed or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Which is quite understandable. Um, I met a couple of guys in jail who had, not a lot, one or two maybe, that I can remember after that me that told me stuff had happened to them. They didn't go right into detail, and I'm quite glad they didn't, because like it makes your fucking skin crawl, do you know? Um, and some people are just quite open about it and some aren't, you know what I mean? But they help them, man. It's sad for them, you know what I mean? So I can see why this guy would go and just want to live a transient lifestyle and just float around committing petty crime, no direction in life, no financial help, nothing. Like, it's fucking, it's understandable that he's went back to Alaska and ended up doing what he's doing. But to be fair, I think the Alaskan Avenger ship was just like a kind of a media a media thing, because I think the robbery was his main motive. I don't think it would be different if it was like the cops had found this weird crime scene where there was ritualistic features in the scene the guy died. He'd scrawled shit on the wall. See, like something out of fucking Scream or Seven, like one of these films. Like, do you know, like it's dead kind of fucking like a thriller movie. But there was none of that in this guy's offending, which I noticed. Which I would have expected to see if this guy was just all about hurting Cadbury's feasts, nonces, whatever you want to call them, baitings, fucking, you know what I mean? Uh, I would have expected to see this type of behaviour, this ritualistic behaviour. There was absolutely none. But to be fair, his crime span was short lived. He'd only been, well, I mean, the Alaskan Avenger stuff, it was like fucking, he was lucky if it lasted a week. We're talking like, I think it was 2013, 2014, round about then. Um, there was three guys, right, who targeted like, with like a 2 day gap in between each one. Eventually a cops found him in a car, took him into custody and all that. He was sentenced to, I think he eventually pleaded guilty. I think he pleaded guilty at not guilty at the start, but eventually I think he pleaded not guilty, right? And then eventually pleaded to it, got the 28 year, and there was quite a few of the charges dropped as well. But now he's coming out and saying to the media, I don't condone violence against people who have caused you trauma, rather than commit violence against people who have hurt you. I would advise you to seek counselling. Now, obviously, I don't know if the guy means this or if this is kind of him paying lip service to get parole, because there is a big campaign going on to get this guy out. There is a lot of kind of support for him earlier. I looked into it. I think his sister's on Instagram, or his half sister, or something like that. Somebody that's related to him anyway. I've read people sending money and all this kind of shit. But 28 years is a long time, you know. Fuck. But I'm going to read a wee bit of the details, and just to kind of give you a wee insight into the case in that. So, Jason Christian Vukovic was born June 25th, 1975 in Alaska. So, he was born in Alaska. He targeted 3 paedophiles from the National Sex Offender List in June 2016 to beat and rob them. He is known as the Alaskan Avenger for targeting sex offenders by becoming a paedophile hunter. Now, as I just explained, I would question whether his MO was all about hurting paedophiles as opposed to just fucking robbing them because they can't go to the police. See, like robbing a drug dealer, it's like they can't go to the cops and see like all this kind of shit, you know what I mean? So I question whether it was about robbery or whether it was about hurting them, because if it was about hurting them, there's no really a lot of damage being done for what I would expect to see for somebody like this who had been sexually abused growing up that wanted to hurt paedophiles. I would expect to see a hell of a lot more violence. I would expect to see like a lot of gut churning violence, you know. So I'll just get into it. So early life. Vukovic was born in Anchorage, Alaska to a single mother who later married Larry Lee Fulton. Jason got adopted at 4, but instead of being his guardian, Larry Lee Fulton became Vukovic's and his brother Joel's abuser. Vukovic was sexually abused and beaten with pieces of wood and whipped by belts by his stepfather. Fuck. In 1989, Fulton was charged with second degree abuse and molestation of a minor and got convicted. Right, but Disney say, I just want to point out, Disney say in this article whether he was convicted of abusing Jason Vukovic and his brother or it was some other minor, but I'm assuming it's them. But what I would say is people like this usually have a track record of doing this type of stuff before it. They don't just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to meet a bird and abuse a range. Usually what you find is they'll target a vulnerable woman, or they'll meet a vulnerable woman. They'll see that she's got kids, so going with the woman gives them access to the children, do you know? So and they know what they're doing, do you know? They're targeting women that maybe don't feel good about themselves, have low self-esteem, they've been in a lot of failed relationships, they're just looking for that fucking knight in shining armour, whatever. They're very, very cunning. So I don't know, there's not a whole lot of information about this Larry Lee Fulton, don't know if he's still breathing, but hopefully not. So, in 1989, Fulton was charged with second degree abuse and molestation of a minor and got convicted. However, he only received a 3-year suspended sentence from Superior Court Judge Carol Johnston. Shame on you, Carol. After serving his sentence, Fulton was allowed to return home, where he continued to abuse Vukovic and his brother. Fucking hell. No one came to check on the family, and at the age of 16, Vukovic and his brother ran away. No wonder. Vukovic, while still underage, moved to Washington State with no identification or financial recourse. To survive, he turned to thievery and became well known to local police. Vukovic had criminal records from Washington to Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and California. So that's like almost the whole Pacific Northwest. Do you know what I mean? Just fucking living the street life, man. Horrendous. Around 2008, he moved back to Alaska where he racked up several criminal charges against him, which included theft, possession of a controlled substance, and the assault of his then wife, which he denied. So we've got acknowledgement here, obviously, possession of a controlled substance, and when I seen his mugshots and that, yeah, he's got tattoos in his face and heavily tattooed, so I'm not saying people with face tattoos are all addicts, right? What I'm saying is, someday if you've been around addicts, there's usually a lot of signs, you know. And I've not just been around them in my family, I've lived in jail with them for how long, so you pick up on the signs, you know. So in 2016, the untreated childhood trauma reached a boiling point for Vukovic. He decided to get his own justice and began to read through the sex offender registry of Alaska. He sought 3 men who were sex offenders in relation to children. He listed the names and addresses he found in the public index in his notebook. Vukovic then targeted the homes of Charles Albee, Andres Barbosa, and Wesley Demarest. So just kind of briefly go through the cases, right? So Charles Albee, on June 25th, 2016, so this is Vukovic's birthday, right? My grand's also that birthday, I'd just like to point out. No, that's my dad's birthday, I mean. I always get mixed up with my dad and my gran because they're a day apart. So my gran's is the 24th, my dad's is the 25th of June. So, on 25th of June 2016, Vukovic knocked on Charles Albee's door, who was convicted in 2003 of second degree abuse of a minor, same charge as his stepdad. This was first thing in the morning. He pushed Albee inside and ordered him to sit on his bed. Vukovic slapped Albee several times across the face. He told him how he'd found his home address and knew what he had done. Then Vukovic robbed Albee and left. Like I say, like he's just slapping him and robbing him. People deal with these things differently, but I mean, there's like the trauma and all that shit. Like, if I would expect to see at least his face wrecked, you know what I mean? But don't know, maybe he's just thinking, I need cash, I need my gear, see you later. So Andres Barbosa, this is the second case. So this is 2 days after the first one. So Andres Barbosa, 2 days later, Vukovic entered Barbosa's home, who was a convicted child kidnapper. He was also convicted of possession of child sexual abuse images in 2014. This time, Vukovic appeared at 4 a.m. with 2 female accomplices. Vukovic threatened Barbosa with a hammer. He told him to sit down, and before warning he would bash his dome in, he punched him in the face first. In a later bail memorandum, Vukovic stated he was at Barbosa's to collect what he owed, as one of the 2 females filmed the incident with her cell phone. Vukovic and the other women robbed Barbosa. They stole several items, including the man's truck. Right, so you can kind of see a bit of evolution in the violence and the threatening and all that, but it's no, like, he's punching him and he's verbally threatening him and all that, but obviously I'm not going for fucking witness statements, not, so there's only what I've said, you're only as good as the information in front of you, you know, so this is what I'm kind of saying to you, do you know what I mean? So a wee bit more progression in the kind of the violence, but no much for what I would have expected to see. So, on June 29th, Wesley Demarest, who was convicted of attempted sexual abuse of a minor in 2006, awoke to find Vukovic forcing his way into his home at 1 a.m. Vukovic ordered Demarest to lie in his bed, but the man refused. Vukovic told him to get on his knees, and Demarest said no. Vukovic then struck Demarest with a hammer in the face that fractured his skull. During the assault, Vukovic told Demarest, quote, "I'm an avenging angel. I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt." Vukovic stole several items, including a laptop, and fled. Demarest woke up in his own blood and called the police. Now, obviously, it's what I'm saying about the evolution of the violence. You can see it clearly in this one, how it's just went for a threat, then the next one it's threatening and slapping, and then the next one it's basically the guy's been but maybe the reason that he was violent in that one because that was the first guy who had refused to take orders off him, and he just thought, is that right? I fucking had that buff right in the dish, know what I mean? But when you read what they're convicted there, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have an atom of sympathy. Just, and I never will. I'm not gonna kid on a day. Like even my worst enemy's kid, I wouldn't hurt. I would help them first. Wouldn't be doing anything at all. Like these guys are just wired differently. So arrest and trial. So finding Vukovic did not take long for the authorities, as he was sitting in his Honda Civic a few blocks away. Inside the car, the police found the stolen goods, a hammer, and a notebook containing the names and addresses of the 3 assault victims, which Vukovic had crossed off. So he's not really giving a fuck about getting caught with anything. You know what I mean? I would say he would definitely had some sort of drug habit, man. Vukovic was arrested on the spot. Later, he was charged with 18 counts of assault, robbery, burglary, and theft. Initially, Vukovic pleaded not guilty, but instead, he opted to make a deal with the prosecution. Vukovic pled guilty to first-degree attempted assault and another consolidated count of first-degree robbery. In exchange, prosecutors dismissed over a dozen other charges, which led to a sentence of 28 years in prison in 2018, with 5 years suspended and another 5 on probation. Fuck. Vukovic clarified his brutal motivations and regrets in a 2017 letter to the Anchorage Daily News. Now this is an excerpt for the letter, right? "I thought back to my experiences as a child. I took matters into my own hands and assaulted 3 paedophiles," he wrote. "If you have already lost your youth, like me, due to a child abuser, please do not throw away your present and your future by committing acts of violence." So that was a direct quote for a letter he wrote, right? Vukovic appealed his sentence because his PTSD should be considered a mitigating factor in his case. However, he lost the bid in October 2020. Despite being considered a hero among some Alaskans, the judge ruled vigilantism won't be accepted in our society. What about paedophilia? How were none of the fucking people that he broke into the house, how were none of them doing 28 years? This is the attitude towards these crimes that just puzzles me and frustrates the fucking shit out of me. Pardon my fucking tone. But when it comes to this, I'm quite fucking annoyed, shall we say, because if they guys were doing 28 years for attempted rape of a minor, 2 million images of fucking whatever, then they should be locked up. Why is there this lax attitude towards sex crime? Bit strange, really strange, and I'm sure a lot of you will feel the same. So where were we? Meanwhile, Ember Tilton, Vukovic's lawyer, shared the sentiments of thousands who have pledged their support on several online petition sites for his client, pleading for his release. To them, the cyclicality of violence and trauma will unlikely end by keeping victims turned criminals in jail. I kinda agree with that. The cyclicality of violence and trauma, what you mean is it's a basically it's a never ending cycle. And we're seeing that in prisons, especially all the Western world. I can't really speak for other countries because I've not done a lot of kind of reading up on it. But except for maybe Russia, a lot of prisons are full of people who started out as victims, right, and then became criminals. But most times it's just due to choice. You still do have the choice whether you got to go and commit that offence. And I had the choice, right? Even though like I was a victim of knife crime before I became a perpetrator of knife crime. Now I would never include myself in a victim category because I believe that as soon as if you've been stabbed before, you've been robbed before, whatever, right, and then you go and do that to somebody, that cancels out what happened to you. That's just my opinion, right? Yours might feel different, or I don't know, but that's just how I feel about it. I feel that anything I done after getting hurt, to me it cancels mine out. So, but I never went through what this guy went through, so don't think he should be doing anywhere near 28 years. I think he should maybe go to 10, right? 10 years, see you later. Fucking buck your ideas up, mate. That's more than enough time to sort yourself out. You know, you can't walk away from it. I'm not going to lie and say we should just be able to fucking hurt who we want, because where does it fucking end, you know? Even if they're fucking beasts. But in saying that, on the other side of the coin, if this was my kid, oh fuck's sake, I would need sedated probably. Not him. So his lawyer said, I don't think he needs to be punished. He's already been punished. This whole thing started out as the punishment of a child who doesn't deserve to be treated this way. Vukovic has urged others who have been victims of sexual abuse during their childhood to seek inner peace and reject vigilante justice. According to, so this is a section about online petitions, right? According to KTUU, I don't know what that is, KTUU, if it's an academic institution or a fucking whatever. Many people praised Vukovic after his arrest and was called a hero. Many have started online petitions asking to free Vukovic with a hashtag Free Jason Vukovic, because they assert that the justice system does nothing to punish paedophiles and less help to their victims. Yes. I agree. And it's not just in America and Alaska. Maybe the reason that the system, when you look at certain high profile cases recently, is because this is an underground thing that they're all in on. Some of them definitely are, but you've got them in all walks of life, you know, it's not just government, no. On Twitter, the hashtags Free Jason Vukovic, hashtag Justice for Jason, and hashtag Justice for Jason Vukovic were used to show their support. So bit of a kind of unusual case, this one. I know a lot of you probably have never heard it, but I remember reading about this or hearing about it while I was still in prison. I remember thinking, what a fucking legend, man. I'm not gonna lie. Just is what it is, you know, like a lot of us hold these views regarding this type of offender. And I don't mean Jason Vukovic, I mean people that hurt children. You're duty bound as a fucking human being and as an adult to protect any kid, no matter what the fucking cost. And I mean any kid. because kids are born innocent. It's what somebody said to me today. You're born as this bulb. Can't mind the way he explained it to me. The guy's alright, but no, he's helping me out with some stuff. Should probably be watching this anyway, he's alright. So I'm just looking at a newspaper article for 31st of October 2020, which was talking about Anchorage man who attacks sex offenders loses appeal that PTSD factored into his crimes. It's just fucking madness, man. Hold on. The man who called himself an avenging angel for attacking sex offenders has lost his appeal to have his PTSD considered as a mitigating factor in his sentence. Jason Vukovic pleaded guilty to a series of crimes that occurred in June of 2016 where he used the Alaska Sex Offender Registry to find victims. Vukovic threatened, assaulted and robbed men who were placed on the sex offender registry for crimes ranging from possession of child pornography to attempted sex abuse of a minor. So these victims were all convicted of these offences. So there you go. It wasn't like allegations, there were convictions, you know. According to court documents, Vukovic went to the addresses listed on the sex offender registry, broke into the homes, assaulted the occupants and stole from the sex offenders. In his third robbery, Vukovic struck the man he was robbing with a hammer 4 or 5 times after the man tried to fight back. Bad day for you then, wasn't it? Court documents say the man suffered from a traumatic brain injury. Wonder how the guy's victims felt when they heard about that, but, and I'm not going to lie, I do think it is dead noble for people who forgive. They just shame some age, you know, I think. Because some people do not deserve forgiveness. Know what I mean? After his arrest, Vukovic wrote a letter to what was then the Alaska Dispatch News saying he had been sexually assaulted as a child and had targeted men who had committed similar abuses. He entered into a plea agreement with the state, pleaded guilty to 1 count of attempted first-degree assault and another count of first-degree robbery. Vukovic was sentenced to 28 years in prison with 5 years suspended and 5 years on probation in 2018. Since then, Vukovic has appealed his sentence, saying his post-traumatic stress disorder should have been considered a mitigating factor for his crimes. The post-traumatic stress disorder stems from childhood sexual abuse, Vukovic said, which he believes the court failed to consider in sentencing. America, they just don't fuck about with sentencing, you know what I mean? That's probably how they'll get the highest incarceration rate in the fucking planet, man. Prison's a business over there, man. There's no such thing as let's rehabilitate. Who the fuck are they kidding, man, you know? Same here, I know. We're kidding ourselves on, man. It comes for in there, man. You need to want it. And you just get up and find a way to get it yourself, innit? So it says, in his appeal, Vukovic said the court should have considered that he was committing these crimes while, quote, under some degree of duress. Vukovic was diagnosed with the disorder 5 years prior, and a doctor testified that Vukovic's behaviours were consistent with someone who suffered from PTSD. The court said Vukovic did not meet the standard for a statutory mitigator because he provided limited evidence showing how he was under duress, coercion, threat or compulsion when he committed the crimes. Vukovic also argued that the court sentence should be appealed as it was excessive and not made with the intent of rehabilitating him. I agree it was excessive, 100%. It was punitive. Sentences are punitive, these ones are no like, there's punitive and what's the other one? And studying prisons, I can't mind. Like the aims of punishment, punitive and something else. I'm losing it, man. Again, the court said this argument was unconvincing as Vukovic failed to show his actions were, quote, largely the product of untreated PTSD. On Wednesday, the Court of Appeals reaffirmed the sentence, saying, quote, "We conclude that the sentence imposed is not clearly mistaken." And then they went on to say about how vigilantism isn't accepted, and some Alaskan residents called Vukovic a hero after his piece was published in Alaska Dispatch News, even though he acted outside of the law because he targeted sex offenders. I wonder what will happen when he gets out. There probably will be a lot of help for the guy, you know. People will be flinging help at him, I dare say, but it's one of the ones, isn't it? It's, will he manage outside? Will he be able to beat his demons, you know? Hope he does, to be honest with you, but it's a fucking uphill battle, you know what I mean? For all that have went through prison, fucking trauma, violence, addiction, whatever, it's a fucking struggle, but you need to just think about what reason have you got to live, what reason have you got to stay out, and fucking hold on to that with everything you've got. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it, how I think it. Without the reasons, what's the point? You know? Because you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, your kids. There's somebody you owe, so you're not putting them through any more shit. You know what I mean? Even victims as well, you know what I mean? Not be making any future victims. Aye, a bit deep. But I hope this was watchable. I hope that you took something from it. I don't know, but I wanted to come on and talk about something different today, because obviously I've been talking about kind of Scottish stuff. I'd like to just, it doesn't matter what the case is, like if I know enough about it, I'll come on and speak about it. Do you know what I mean? Because I can kind of look at it from a lot of different perspectives, you know. So I'm just going to make videos like about different cases until my band's up, and I'll drop my videos. And as I said, I want to be looking at doing different things on this channel, not just sitting talking about true crime cases and all this stuff. Because I want it to grow as well, you know what I mean? I want it to grow, and as time goes on, and look at different aspects of criminology and all this kind of shit. Do you know what I mean? And I do think I can tell it in a way where it's not going to bore people. It's not going to be like, oh, for fuck's sake, man, fucking big words and all this, know what I mean? Because I think that would make a lot of people switch off, you know? I've kind of seen it as well, like, and sometimes, like, I can get a bit jaded with it. Do you know what I mean? Because I had to sit and read document after like it was an impulse for me. I felt I had to do it. It was like an addiction. Still got them all, the boxes of research, man, but I don't really trawl through them, to be honest, man, because I think sitting for that long reading academic stuff just kind of, I had to let the dust settle. But I think I've been out long enough now where I can start looking at what I want to do next, and hence how this podcast came about. You know what I mean? And then get on other podcasts, and then next year's got to be an interesting year. We've got a couple of things to do, so we'll look forward to, have goals. So this is what's good for people like us coming out of jail. You need goals. You need to have something to chase, something to aspire to. And I'm not talking about chase like fucking chasing fucking wine, women and song. You know what I mean? You have to want something for your life, because it's coming up to Christmas. Many fucking Christmases did you miss out on? I missed out on a fucking lot. And every day's like Christmas to me. To be funny, to be fair, and especially like when I got recalled back to prison for breach of the peace. My son was born 2 weeks later, got out and he was 8, so every day I get to spend with that wee boy is like Christmas, you know. So every day is like Christmas, but Christmas is just that wee bit better because it's like another year you lasted, another year you're outside, um, another new year to start. So that jail life's just a lot of shit, man. Do you know? Unless you're one of these guys that's made millions and you're living in abroad, whatever, but it's you're playing for high stakes then, you know. So I'd rather sit where I'm at and just knuckle down, get on with it, you know, and just have my son and nae worries, nae things about post come to kick the door in and all that. So I'll leave yous to it. Got to go and have my dinner and see what my lizard's doing. He's been fucking hibernating for ages, man. He does that this time of year. I think it's called brumation. They just fucking sleep all the time. They don't even come out to eat or nothing. They just sleep every day, man. A lot better. As I say, shout out to all the positive people. Bob Murray for Black Colour as well. Cheers for the messages and that, bro. You're a good boy, you know. Mental. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed this when you see it, because obviously I don't know if many of you have even heard this, so it's kind of good that way you're hearing about, you're not just hearing all the same recycled shite, you know what I mean, like fucking Big King with whatever shot that thing, like just all this recycled shit we've heard a million times, and that's fair if that's guys' stories that they've personal knowledge of and all that, but to me it's just like, I want to bring something different, and I hope that I'm doing that, so I really appreciate the support and the comments and all that, and I thank yous all. And I'm going to go and let my wee boy get back on his computer. So take care. I hope yous liked that, and I'll see yous when I'm on. Catch yous.